Hey guys, welcome to part 2 to What If Naruto got Isn't Tales from the Nine Tales. If you want to know what happened in the last part, then there will be a link in the description down below, which will take you to a playlist where you can watch part 1 and any other future part that gets added into the series. As somewhat, or you can watch somewhat all of it until the end, where then somewhat once the end screen cards appear, there'll be a link on there as well. And yeah, with that, let's get into this. So from there, kind of 2 weeks would pass, and somewhat that first actual mission would be capture the Torah, as now to make some perverted jokes, somewhat they would wind up initially, with making a perverted joke about, sticking his, finger up his arse and that, to eventually somewhat winding up with Sakura and both Sasuke and Sakura both passing out from just and somewhat with Kakashi just somewhat mentally swearing that he's going to give them the hardest mission possible, to which would be capture the Torah, capture Torah, to which they'd proceed to do faster than anyone else, because you could track Torah's scent, and you'd ask whoever, give them a mission if they had any of Torah's, which they would have some fur, potentially, and would hand it to Naruto, and Naruto would, smell it enough to kind of get a scent, and then track Torah down that way, and though that statement did kind of continue on with then Kakashi something that it would just make them do as much missions as possible, just wind up with them doing in their first day, or at least from when they would start up until about midday, somewhat they would crank out about 3 missions. Though he would also get them to somewhat, or at least Naruto, to start making provided jokes, so that would wind up with them having to agree to, for one, actually properly train them, and also to start coming, on time. Otherwise, Naruto, advised that he was going to very much continue on with his, provided jokes and that. And so from there, Kakashi pretty much put them through hell after lunch, and by the end of the first week alone, they were cranking out about 5 missions from 8 to 12. They'd managed to crank out about 5, and by the end of the second week, they'd managed to crank out about 7, which would put them about 21 to 26. 26, 27, if not 28, kind of missions total. And which would kind of put them in all this kind of in a unique situation, as Kakashi was also, training them and that it kind of somewhat he was wanting to kind of somewhat add it, or at least somewhat they would come the next day, or at least on the somewhat same day, as they would as Kakashi, after that training, that would hand in the mission reports. Just somewhat would go to Hizen, Hizen had told him that he wanted to speak to him in kind of private after, after he, dismissed his team and that. So Kakashi would go, and somewhat Hizen would pretty much tell him that they didn't have any pretty much really D ranks left. Kakashi would be confused and would ask what he meant by they didn't have any D ranks left, which Hizen would kind of just say that again, that they didn't have any D ranks missions left, as they'd pretty much done their backlog of D ranks that, kind of would keep so many backlogs, so if a, say Chunin or Jonin does something that is, worthy of a punishment, they could do so many, D ranks, a day, maybe 2 or 3, and still not impact, everyone else. like the other Genin or that are doing, D ranks, and the other, Armbu, Jonin, Shunin, or other Genin, doing D ranks. And yeah, and just like say that, like someone tomorrow, he'd only be able to assign them like a single, maybe 2 D ranks at most. And yeah, to which they would somewhat, start talking with one another, or at least kind of start, talk back and forward, and eventually Kakashi would get him to agree to give Team 7 a C rank, and yeah, though Hiruzen would somewhat get him to agree to, or at least get to Kakashi to teach Team 7, or at least before they could take a second, C rank, they would have to teach them tree and water walking, even though Hiruzen already somewhat knew Naruto could do those things. Okay, though, from their first C rank, which would last 4 weeks, which would just be escorting a person to leave the next town or two over. It would go easily. It would just be, a standard C rank. And so, from there, once they'd get back, and after, reporting the C rank mission, as a success in that, and giving them the report, it was in the report, they would sort of go, once Hiruzen would dismiss, or at least dismiss them, and they'd go and get the money. Somewhat they would go to Triangle 7, and or at least somewhat the next day, and Kakashi would kind of somewhat would start teaching them how to tree walk, or at least Sasuke and Sakura, as Naruto could already do it, though Sakura would prove that she could pretty much do it almost instantly, though he would have Sakura keep on doing it to improve her chakra reserves. And yeah, so about 5 days would go by as Kakashi would be training them later on than almost anyone else, and later on than what he did in doing the Land of Asia mission, as he's in Konoha. Yeah, so he didn't really have to worry about any enemies, coming to try and kill them, his team or that now. And yeah, so from there, so after that, it teaches them water walking, which would somewhat finish with the kind of 6, or at least about something the tail end of the 6 days. Sasuke would start to get it down, and then the 7th day, about an hour or two, so about 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning on the last day, the 7th day. Say Sunday, say Sunday on that. Sasuke would get it down, and Kakashi would think about just dismissing them for the day. When Naruto would somewhat ask him about potentially training, somewhat on different scenarios that they could encounter outside the village, with escorting, be it people, different kind of maybe aged people, different amounts of people, to even different, be it in a just a somewhat horse and cart caravan, or something like that. And Kakashi would kind of ask how they would do so. Similarly, to which Naruto would kind of point out, reminding him that he could do he could make over 1,000 shadow clones, and that you could have those 1,000, or at least how many shadow clones use transformation jutsu to different adults, men and women, and even children, that, and fight. They could train that way, and that you could then eventually learn how to transform into a horse, and then horse and carriage, of course also transform into a carriage or that, horse drawn carriage, and yeah, it's so Kakashi would kind of nod, and would end up telling both Sasuke and Sakura as well, for them to also learn to train into, or at least learn to be able to transform into horses, as you'd state that he would learn as well, as kind of Sakura, or at least Sasuke would kind of wonder why Sakura would ask, why don't us as well, Sensei, and why doing it as well? Well, quite simply, Sakura, say in the future, say out, I don't know, say, someone, getting some information from, someone we're in enemy territory, and they're coming after us, and, we're coming, into some wide open field, going to be someone, screwed down on our tails, they'll be, at us in, a minute, a few seconds to a minute's time. Well, it's a giant open field. We could then, just transform into a group of horses or that. And, pretend, just pretend to, be wild horses. They would, kind of ignore us and continue jumping onwards or that. Looking for us once we'd be the horses, and we could then get away safer. Now, couldn't we? Should go, and Sasuke would kind of nod, that made sense. And plus, there's also, charts, say, when we're, on one of these, missions, with a horse-drawn carriage that, thugs or even a shinobi may attack, kill the horse, we may be able to kill them or, repel them, but with a horse down, or that, may not be able to pull, the carriage. One of us could transform into a horse and then, continue to pull the carriage from there. Yeah, though I know, of course, though that would also mean having to also, transform, or at least be able to also do somewhat be able to transform, or at least also, be able to somewhat make, the somewhat harness and that, a somewhat maybe single horse-drawn carriage or a, like some of the hardware, required for a horse to pull a, single or dual or, single or dual, sort of horse-drawn carriage. And once I would advise you to, someone to learn, or at least how to, transform that with chakra, as it'd be the fastest way, as it'd be, pre-applied onto you. I guess somehow each, one of you's the, gear required for both horse riding, the correct horse riding gear, and also just, some of the, proper gear for those, say, 3 scenarios. Which then, we could just somewhat, if we need, some a horse that one of us could just transform, and, we could, throw the, throw, say, your gear, say, somewhat Sakura, say you, transform into a horse, then, somewhat use, take your scroll, or at least say, it's not your scroll, and then use your, somewhat horse gear to be your gear, now to have, say, his own gear, and same with Sasuke and I myself. To which they would somewhat nod, and from there, they would only somewhat, of course, though Kakashi would say, though we can do some training, somewhat like, our previous, mission. But, we could do that, mock up of that, but instead, so of course it would be, Shinobi instead. If that's, fine with you, Naruto, to which, Naruto not stating that he was the one who suggested it, so of course he was, fine with it, and, yeah. So that's what they would do for the somewhat last of that, and somewhat, because they, once Kakashi would, dismiss them, until Kakashi dismissed them, and from there he would go and kind of, or at least somewhat, and somewhat the next day they would arrive, and somewhat, the D-rank missions were still kind of there, somewhat, subpar was still somewhat slow due to the fact that they would still, some, shinobi that were slow, doing them due to them, having to do, say, so many as a, somewhat, as a, what's it called? Punishment. That's it. And, yeah, so, the ranks were still somewhat low, so Kakashi would ask if, somewhat Team 7 could do another, somewhat C rank, and, somewhat Hiroshima would nod. Of course, Iruka, Hiron, this and that for the first time would kind of somewhat throw up, an argument that, they'd only be, gaining for somewhat a month. Though Hizume just turned to, trust Kakashi in that. And to have, faith, in the shinobi, in the, Genin he trained in that. It should be a bit uneasy, but he would kind of agree, and of course, Hizume, someone to look through the scroll, or at least he wouldn't really even need to look through the scroll, he kind of would, though he would already sort of knew what scroll he was going to give them if they were to ask for a C rank. Yeah, and he'd go, how about this? As he would somewhat, roll up the C rank scroll and hand, would find such scroll and give it to Kakashi, to which it'd be the Land of Waves mission. And yeah, of course, somewhat been through it did, somewhat he'd agree, he'd somewhat agree to take it. And, from there, of course, Hizume would, ask for, the bridge builder to enter, and a few seconds to a minute later, he would, of course, drunkenly, and would deceive to, kind of somewhat, point, similar at Naruto, and ask, who the Raider, was, or at least, that to which Naruto kind of somewhat look down and kind of, Sasuke and Sakura, due to, somewhat, they'd kind of, blunt through, the month that Naruto was, somewhat smart, very, smart and well, somewhat, knowledge, somewhat, very much, knew a lot and that, as well as, just, generally kind and that, and, yeah, so, and of course they were a bit kind of sort of scared, as they didn't necessarily know how a pissed off Naruto would be. Because, just how dangerous a mad Naruto could be. So, they'd go do something sort of that. And though Kakashi would give him a harsh glare and would, somewhat. And after a bit, talking, the bridge builder would pretty much, would be somewhat pale and would somewhat, stumble, somewhat, apology out and that. And yeah, though Kakashi would tell them that they were, dismissed to, and to pack, to somewhat pack for a month. They would nod and they would lead, and about 5 minutes or an hour later, they would arrive at the front gates and would proceed to leave towards the Land of Waves. And yeah, as though somewhat, as the time would go down, as in it would, go to midday, Naruto would end up sniffing, would end up smelling seemingly the scent of somewhat people and yeah, he hadn't smelled, anyone for, a long while now, and well, they were going at a civilian's pace, so he'd somewhat, and slowly getting closer at their speed, so they weren't coming, to them or that. To which, Kakashi knew something was up, as his tail would kind of somewhat slightly puff out. Sasuke and Sakura seeing that would go over, and would somewhat talk, and Naruto tell them that, potentially, two people, or at least, potentially, two people, coming up in that, and though, they would sort of think about, one of them would ask about, telling Kakashi, or at least Sakura would, to which, both Sasuke and Naruto would state that Kakashi probably already knows or knows something's up. And as they'd go by, all three of them would see a water puddle and would kind of somewhat realise that, it kind of didn't make sense. It had been raining, it hadn't rained in a week, so puddles didn't make sense at all. Though, seeing as Kakashi Sensei wasn't going to do anything, and Kakashi had kind of, somewhat had already kind of somewhat told them or indicated to them to just keep on, and that he needs to see if if they were potentially enemies, and if they were they, after them or the bridge builder himself. And of course, somewhat. Well, yeah, of course, from there, they would take out Kakashi, though they would kind of fake screaming like Sasuke had got wide eyes, Sakura and Naruto would kind of, yell, no, Kakashi sensei. Sakura, kind of sort of gasp, and go, Kakashi sensei, and Naruto just yell out. Yeah, seemingly, and yeah, though from there, though they would all know it's fake as Kakashi used these, same sensation and that when, in a mock fight and that, so they knew that it was fake. He was just, faking his death, and of course, somewhat, they would hear what they were hoping for one down. Since they thought they had actually killed Kakashi, whereas in fact they just chopped up a log. And yeah, so from there, they got somewhat, Naruto would be, Sakura would be, right in front of the bridge builder, and then it would be somewhat, Naruto the next closest, and then Sasuke kind of the furthest, and lo and behold, they would send him behind Naruto. And yeah, both, somewhat Naruto and Sasuke somewhat, known, or at least Naruto known they were behind him, and Sasuke seeing that they were behind him, just as they would, bring back, that chain to throw it. Naruto just, do a 180, would charge at one of them, Sasuke charged at the other, taking the two Demon Brothers by surprise at their high speed due to their training, and also, somewhat being, doing so fast on the somewhat missions and all DD ranks. And yeah, and but what about the chain? Sasuke would have impact, would have thrown his kunais or that, surely to impact, to so they couldn't use chain. Well, Sakura would actually do that instead, as she'd sort of stay close to Tazuna just in case, one of them would kick either Sasuke or Naruto, far enough away where they would try and get to Tazuna. Yeah, and though she would still kind of, when she could see an opening, she'd throw a kunai at either of the Demon Brothers, so they couldn't, get that, opening to do any potentially more, damage to Naruto or Sasuke. And yeah, after a while, Kakashi enter, knocking both out and tying them up, and would proceed to pretty much interrogate Tazuna, and then once the Demon Brothers were awakened, interrogate them. Of course, from there, somewhat Naruto would kind of, somewhat, or at least would kind of joke about, going back to Konoha to it, Sasuke, noticing the joke, and even Sakura and Kakashi noticing it, would all perceive to kind of go with the somewhat kind of joke, as, they weren't going to actually, leave him, to potentially, they weren't going to leave a country, go and potentially, be wiped out. Yeah, wasn't Naruto's, somewhat, ninja way. And yeah, so somewhat after bearing him pleading very much to get, somewhat on his hands and knees and just begging them, they would agree, though Kakashi would tell him that, they would have to very much pay Konoha for whatever, the mission gets ranked up to, though he would tell them that it's currently a B rank and potentially a rank, as somewhat Sakura, say that it was, the Demon Brothers, or at least would kind of ask Kakashi, if, or at least somewhat from her memory of reading the bingo book, as he would give one to both, to all three of them, that somewhat just, or at least somewhat Sakura would, somewhat say, or at least would somewhat ask, kind of somewhat, from my memories, don't the Demon Brothers normally follow, Sabazar, so doesn't this mean it's actually an A rank? Kakashi would say maybe, but they could have gone rogue from Zabza, or Zabza could have had them do this mission by themselves. Who knows? And and so it goes from there. They would go, and when they'd go to, once they'd make landfall in the land of waves, Naruto style would puff up again, smelling two people, that being Zabza and Haku. But of course, Zabza, known of a Jinchuriki and that, would see Naruto and would immediately think that he was the 9-tailed Jinchuriki, and there's no bloody way he was going to. It's clear to him now. This child, someone, kid on that team was clearly the 9-tailed Jinchuriki and was clearly was able to use its chakra if the ears and tail was a thing. And knowing that the 9 tails was stated to be the strongest tailed beast, and that a single tail could wipe out mountains and cause tsunamis and make ravines, the Valley of the End, for example. He'd pretty much Haku, not getting, not seeing, Taz, Zabza, kind of, somewhat fight them, or that would kind of transition over to Taz, Zabza would kind of ask what was kind of up, and he'd state that he wasn't doing this mission, he was abandoning this to it. I could ask if he was, sure as it could potentially, that it would make it potentially harder to, take more missions to it. Should state that I'm not going to, throw my life away to, to kill the freaking, to go up against, Hatake Kakashi, Hatake Kakashi on, someone by itself is a massive threat. Let alone the freaking 9-tailed Jinchuriki Haku. That kid, with the ears and, the fox's and tail. Yeah, he's the 9-tailed Jinchuriki, and there's no way in, somewhat in, in how I'm going to, somewhat, no money from anyone, from Gato is going to make me, go and face a freaking Jinchuriki, especially the 9-tailed Jinchuriki. And yeah, Haku would somewhat nod, and they would just go, they would collect their stuff and leave. And yeah, though Gato would try and get him to, really kill, what's his name? Tazna, but, he was pretty much noped out of it and would just leave, even threatening him. And that's pretty much, and he would even tell, someone Gato that no one would do the freaking mission with a tailed beast on, someone with a Jinchuriki. Protecting someone to him, so and he'd tell, yeah, that if he wants him dead, he's going to have to do it himself, to it. Yeah. And so, someone, and yeah, from there, of course, they would go, and the sort, next day, they would, go out, all three of them, and, Kakashi would go with someone, with, or at least, well, Kakashi should have one of them stay back. Or at least, well, yeah, someone who would have, say, Sakura to stay back. Someone just with, Tazda and Inari, Tsunami and Inari, just to, make sure that, Gato doesn't, try anything or that. And, well, no, he would just leave a Shad clone, either that or get now. No, he would have now to make a Shad clone, because Naruto's practically a one-man army, one person army, one fox army. Yeah, one person army. So you'd, and yeah, so of course, when they would all arrive, the bridge would go, the construction, would kind of go like normal, though Naruto would smell kind of similarly to people, and even Kakashi would perhaps, sense to have more all these, people, but similarly, kind of all these that, all these, 2 or 3 of them were watching. Not much, building the bridge, or that. And, yeah, it was Gato's, men, and Gato, decided that he was going to get as much information as possible, and yeah, so once, the bridge, the building of the bridge, be done for the day, they would simply confirm that there, was a person with, a boy with foxes and, a fox tail, and that he must be the 9,000 Cherokee. And yeah, so from there, they would, sorry, they'd have, people go there every day, and eventually, a week would pass, and Kakashi, would think that, they would probably, maybe attack, somewhat within maybe the week or 2. And yeah, to which some, Naruto would agree, at least would some, agree to, the entire team would, and so on that day, Naruto would proceed to kind of, or at least would kind of say, or at least would say that, kind of stay back. And yeah, and somewhat though he'd tell them to, or at least somewhat though Kakashi should go about it, somewhat how we're not going to, potentially alarm them. Kakashi, he'd just Naruto just shrug and somewhat state that, I've, or at least, somewhat, I'd, somewhat I'd worked myself a bit, too much, and was just, somewhat asleep. And yeah, Kakashi just blink, and it kind of made sense. So yeah, so from there, somewhat they wouldn't, none of them would kind of really pay, too much attention. So about, a few minutes later, once they somewhat, had left and that, Naruto would kind of suddenly wake up and would, go down. And yeah, of course, she'd tell them that, his team had somewhat left and that he could, stay for the day. All that, to which Naruto would just kind of nod. And yeah. And, they, she'd just get, she'd just be, doing some stuff and that. And, Ari would probably, go up to Naruto and someone would apologize to him for what he'd said either the day before or the day before that, or that, whenever the argument had kind of happened. Or that, and, or at least somewhat, somewhat apologise and that, and yeah, somewhat after a bit of time, and somewhat Naruto would kind of start getting kind of somewhat anxious, as it'd been, half an hour since his team had left, and yeah, so he'd end up somewhat kind of deciding he'd somewhat would kind of call in someone, Tsunami and Tamari, or at least Tamari would be with him, so he'd call Tsunami, and he'd somewhat kind of tell them kind of his some plan that he could, or at least that he kind of knew 2 different transformation jutsus, and there should be, or at least somewhat, well, yeah, Naruto, or at least someone should ask what exactly he meant by that and transformation. Naruto would perceive to, personally, transform it into, Tazuna, and then maybe, his own sensei, Sakura, and, release it then. And, or at least even, do some, Inari as well. And that someone though, or at least though he'd stay as Inari and would tell, her to kind of, or at least would tell, Tsunami to just, either flick him or, give him, a bit of, a punch or that. Should kind of, should be a bit hesitant though, not to assure that it, she wouldn't really, hurt him or that. He is a trained shinobi after all. Should somewhat nod and she would, and you'd go see that's kind of the issue, it's very easy to, dispel. And so my other one, well, for one, I have to kind of be naked, and it allows me to transform into so much, or at least into, the same things. So, but without that kind of downside of, being, a flick or punch, dispelling. It'd only dispel when I want to, not, if someone, touches me a bit hard or that. Just nod and go, okay, but, what's, your plan, with that then? Oh, well, we kind of believe that Tarzan is going to be, not Tarzan, Gato is going to maybe try and attack, something today, and somewhat by what we have kind of thought about, or at least from what we know of Gato from Hughes, kind of figure that he would try and take Hughes as hostage, or at least, you Tsunami. And I somewhat kind of figured this, my own kind of idea, not Kakashi Sensei's, is that somewhat, if they do come and somewhat knock on the door, somewhat, to them, you'd be opening the door, but to humans, to tonight, and, Tamari here, it would be me. So, whatever his name is, I don't think I'm saying it right. So, it'd be me opening the door, though, and, yeah, so they would, sort of think, and, yeah, because someone, but, yeah, somewhat, and kind of somewhat, or at least, from there, somewhat, the Inari would kind of pipe up and would somewhat say that, he kind of wants to help her as well. And after a bit of talking, they would kind of, or at least somewhat, come up with, the same idea. So it would look like, kind of what would happen in canon, seemingly. Granted, just without, Naruto coming to, knock the two idiots out. Well, the two thugs out. Yeah. So from there, Naruto would go up into, or at least Tsunami would go up into, or at least Tsunami would go up with Naruto, as Naruto would go into sort of his, his and Kakashi's, his Kakashi and Sasuke's room, would get undressed, and would then actually or at least seemingly transform, aka shape-shift, a kind of Fox ability, or Kit's, Kitsune ability, to shape-shift into sort of Tsunami, which the shape-shifting did consume chakra to change his, body into that of someone, to change himself. But once it was, once it finished, it wouldn't consume any chakra to, hold the form or that, as that was now his body, until he decides to release the, the shapeshift to revert back to his original form. So, yeah, once you, once it, shapeshift, you'd then sort of leave that and go into Tsunami's room, as Tsunami would have pretty much the clothes already somewhat laid out for, or at least would kind of be getting, or at least would get out the clothes for, or at least, somewhat what she's currently wearing, and would somewhat, help now to put them on and get dressed. And, yeah, so from there, Tsunami would sort of go down, fast, the actual Tsunami, sort of go down, and kind of Inari would kind of sort of kind of look at her a bit unsure, as she would simply sort of open her hands and would say that it was the sort of, real me, and somewhat to Naruto, and yeah, exactly, later Naruto would come down, and yeah, of course, somewhat Tsunami, and somewhat now you can believe it, something, no, this is Naruto. You didn't go, Naruto, you look exactly like my mum. And yeah. And yeah, you'd somewhat like, some almost like, Jocko, go out, somewhat would slightly wink and go, of course, silly, I am, somewhat your mum, sounding exactly like, Tsunami. And yeah, From there, Tsunami would continue to busy itself in the back, though kind of quietly, as eventually the door would knock, and seemingly, Tsunami's voice would, echo out throughout the seemingly house, making Naruto as it would appearance, Tsunami would stop what she was doing and would kind of hide. As, she'd seemingly, go, and open the door, and, from there, Inari, somewhat the scene would play out with eventually them just, somewhat, Inari would seem, think, cry as they would, take Inari, Tsunami away, Naruto away. And, yeah, after all, once they were far enough away, he would just go in and somewhat shut the door. And, yeah. Though he would have a, kunai, as Naruto would still give him a, kunai to protect him and his actual mother, just in case more come, more sent. So, yeah. And so after a bit and talking with, his mother, he would then convince him, his mum, like he would in canon, to, that, and, to rally up the village, and have them go after, Gato as well, to the bridge to maybe, help out Team 7. And, yeah, so as that would happen, so, they would, go towards, the bridge, though eventually, the two kind of, or at least, Gato's married. After a while, they would kind of talk with one another, or at least, and would, somewhat, of course, or at least, it'd be talking, somewhat to her, kind of, somewhat laughing at, that they would, Tazno would kill, Gato, kill Tazno and that, and kill, the other Shinobi and that similarly, though at least, boy with foxes and that, and from there, we would take all the women, and, somewhat, and, he may even somewhat keep you as his personal, fuck toy or that, and, Naruto would feel, somewhat hearing that would feel, would feel some rage build up inside of him and kind of feel a bit sick at hearing what, Gato may actually do to the, women and that. Though, after a while of saying that, they would kind of turn to one another, somewhat go about it, I don't think the boss will mind. Well, I don't think so. Naruto would be kind of confused, though panic would somewhat kind of settle in, as Naruto was kind of somewhat hoping, somewhat what they may be kind of saying. He kind of hoped that his mind was kind of incorrect, which it sadly would be, and they would perceive to kind of somewhat push him, or in that, somewhat Naruto, shapeshift as Tsunami, up against a tree, and they would perceive to, as Naruto would somewhat generally kind of trying to, somewhat almost trying to, fight them, though not necessarily with chakra or that, as they'd still want to kind of try and, fool them or that. And yeah, eventually, though, nothing, or at least though eventually they, first person would just start raping, would start raping, and yeah, because by the time the second one was done, someone was very much wet, so the second one would go in and it would pretty much be more torture as Naruto, or at least someone, yeah, and would even somewhat end up, somewhat having an orgasm from it as well. And yeah, though from that they would, somewhat seeing as she'd similarly kind of out with, just, pull up her, somewhat, panties and, the skirt, and would perceive to just drag her, somewhat over to, drag her, towards the bridge until where Gato was waiting for them. And yeah, from there they would, or at least somewhat, a second or, 5 to 10 seconds later, Naruto would end up recovering and would just have someone look down and rage, someone Naruto knew if he looked up at all, he was just going to kill them right then and, there. And like, ways of torturing them, just lit through his head, though he knew he'd have to kill them kind of fast or torture them in such a way that it would be fast but painful. And eventually he kind of settled on the idea that once the fighting started, he'd just cut off their dicks and shove some of their dicks down their throats. And yeah, and so from there he would end up, they would end up going up to Gato, and somewhat Gato could, he was somewhat, see from the small, trail of simply camel that, somewhat, see that, is, similarly the two people he'd sent to go get, Tsunami had indeed succeeded and had a bit of fun with her, though they could see that. Or at least he could see, that it did simply break her spirit, similarly, so he would kind of think for a bit that he could, leave the bridge to continue on, work for a bit more, maybe he'd have a bit of fun, but to decide against that and to just get over and done with now, he could play with her, and that, once they get back to his place. And, well, yeah, so from there, somewhat, all these Kakashi, Sasuke, and Zachary would see, smoke bombs, kind of, or at least Kakashi and Sasuke, but yeah, they would, see smoke bombs hit the bridge and blow. But, some of the people, would be running, to the other side, and kind of behind, the two Genin and one Jonin, as, yeah, somewhat once they'd, all kind of get up there. Someone, and as the, smoke would, start to disappear, Gato would, say, give it up, give it, someone give it up. Someone, Shinobi and, someone, and Tazuna, I have your, someone, have your daughter here, to which Kakashi would start rapidly going through, what the hell happened to Naruto. There was no way they'd, would be able to beat, kind of Naruto. They're sort of two thugs. And how, Naruto could make easily over 1,000, shotguns, plus Naruto was dignified as the Cherokee, so, at the very least, that would have triggered Naruto, and he would have felt potentially some of the Fox's chakra, so, yeah, and he hadn't, so what was kind of going on? Maybe Naruto transformed into Tsunami, and, yeah, he wasn't exactly sure. Sakura and kind of, Sakura would someone gasp out, and Zamza, not Zamza, and what's his name? Yeah, Tazuna would kind of, would somewhat, would kind of be in shock, and Sasuke would kind of wonder, what on earth kind of, happened to Naruto. No way, some, lowly thugs had managed to take, Naruto down. Not unless Gato had his whole fucking army there, then yeah, potentially, but yeah, though, somewhat, though, just, and yeah, though Sasuke would kind of throw that out the window, as Inari wasn't there as well, which meant Inari was probably still back at the house, which also meant that it was probably Naruto there. And, he'd kind of whisper that to Kakashi, who would kind of somewhat agree with, Sasuke's statement, or at least, Sasuke's, observing that more than likely it was Naruto from them, and Naruto would, or at least somewhat, then I would kind of look up simply, relatively broken, though, Naruto would kind of quickly, transform his eyes to, or at least, somewhat in Tsunami's black eyes, all that, to, his normal, bright blue eyes, to them, releasing it. And yeah, somewhat, or at least though he'd hold it enough for, Tazuna, or at least Kakashi would kind of somewhat slightly elbow, Tazuna enough, and would kind of quietly say to Tazuna, when was the last time, his daughter had, or at least that, he'd sort of ask, Tazuna if he was sure his daughter had, that if his daughter had bright blue eyes, and that from what he could remember, she had black. Tazuna would be kind of confused and would see that, and it would then click into him into his mind, that it was actually, something Naruto there, and of course Kakashi realised that kind of put them in an even better position, as Naruto could potentially kill Gato and potentially stop the others from fighting. If not, they had those surrounded, and the only way they were going to kind of potentially survive not being killed was jumping overboard, off the bridge, and even that would potentially kill them from the height, especially if they didn't land properly or that. So yeah, and so from that and so somewhat Tsunami or Naruto would say, would how similarly somewhat of dad, Tazuna to don't know something about her, and yeah, because Naruto would just sound glad, or it would try and tantalize Tazuna into somewhat saying that he'd put her into either the slave trade as a sex slave, or something along those lines. And yeah, he wouldn't kind of fall for it, as he'd know that it was Naruto's there, and his actual his daughter and his grandchild was safe. And yeah, so he wouldn't he wouldn't sort of fall for it, and he would kind of go, though he would know that he would have to play the role, and he would sort of apologise that because similarly to Tsunami, and that it kind of meant more somewhat that, while somewhat it she meant a lot to him, that the bridge kind of meant more to Wave than what a single person a single person's life sort of meant, than the entire bridge meant to Wave. And yeah, Gato would just sign go fine, then charge all that, or he'd sign out for them to fight, to just have to start running at them, which Kakashi would tell Sasuke, Sakura kind of stand guard at Tazuna, and Kakashi would order Tazuna to go to the other sort of men, and he'd tell Sasuke and Sakura that they were going to have to kill, and that this would be their first kills. Yeah, they would both slightly gulp, though he would remind both of them that Naruto over there was probably was going to have to kill the people there as well, and he may even kill more than them. Yeah. Of course, Sasuke hearing that would just go, yeah, like that dope will kill, would get get more kills than someone that I do. And yeah, Sasuke would almost go, and yeah, though Sakura would kind of sort of nod, plus Kakashi would remind her that they were just thugs, and that she'd fought against Naruto, who could adapt, who somewhat Naruto's shadows clones, who could adapt to her fighting style, making it even harder for her, so that these people would be actually somewhat a bit easier to fight potentially. So yeah, from there somewhat they would charge, and they would start killing, and yeah, though once that somewhat did hurt, or at least something that Gato would just go laughing and go, see, or at least someone that doesn't care about you, and somewhat Naruto, or at least somewhat Tsunami would go, oh, I know he cares about me, or at least somewhat Naruto would go, so I know he cares about Tsunami a lot. But I don't believe I am his daughter, though. I am, though, what I'm definitely sure of is that I am the person that will kill you today, here and now. So Gato would stab his head, where Tsunami should be, and Naruto just done the transformation jutsu to blow like himself. And Gato would go, what, who the hell are you? And we could sort of finish that as Naruto repeat, I'm the one who's killing so I'm the person who kills you today, or something like that. And yeah, of course, somewhat they would hear, fight, and of course, due to, the, sound of metal clash and metal that the thugs wouldn't realise. And yeah, though the two that were similarly holding, or at least that had, been the ones to kind of, get in, Tsunami, Naruto, and actually raped him, Naruto would, turn around and see, kind of see them somewhat, would kind of somewhat back away, and, and they would kind of somewhat look kind of horrified that they'd pretty much, they'd fucked their Mary or that, and Naruto would perceive to just cut, their dicks off. They would, scroll somewhat, he'd he'd somewhat push one to the ground, cutting off his dick at the same time, shoving it down his throat, and far enough down his throat that he pretty much would, kind of suffocate him, and then he would go to the other, and yeah, and from there, he would turn around and would start, walking on the back, to which, after a few had gotten, killed, they would realise that, and turn around, they would wonder where the hell, Tsunami suddenly went, and yeah, they would, start fighting, and yeah, and they would also realise that, Gato was killed, though that seemed to just kind of make them even more wild, as, or at least though the fighting would temporarily stop once they would realise that Gato was actually dead. And they'd, sort of state that, now that they, the person who, was going to pay them dead, that they were now going to just kill everyone and rape whomever they sort of wanted, and yeah. And yeah, so from there they would, they would just start killing, more and more, and eventually, hell, even, the villagers would sort of end up arriving, and ironically, Inari would sort of fire that into, or at least one of, someone Gato's kind of men's head, it hit into sort of their head, piercing their skull and killing them. And though some of these friends and that, and even the bridge builder, the other bridge, some bridge builders and that, and that would kind of start helping out, and yeah, from there, so eventually they would all be killed, and all of Gato's men would be killed, and yeah, from there they would go back. Kakashi would, somewhat would do watchtower jutsu and would rinse the bridge off. Of all the, blooded bodies and that, and yeah, Naruto and some, or at least, though Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi would kind of be covered in blood, would go into some dip into the kind of lake's well, and would come out simply dry. And yeah, from there, they would somewhat, kind of celebrate and that, and that, the land of waves was free, and yeah, after, though from there, after some bit of time, they would go and somewhat, or at least they would, arrive back, and Tsunami, or at least, after a while, Tsunami would go up simply to the toilet, and Naruto would, say that he was kind of getting, something, kind of, something, going to get, different pair of clothes on, all that. And, well, yeah. You actually could somewhat, understand all that, with, being drenched in blood and that. Especially, Naruto was pretty much caked from head to toe in blood, and, well, yeah, there's probably still some blood somewhere where the water didn't get, in, all that. So, yeah. Though from there, of course, sort of Naruto just, would go into, sort of Tsunami's room, who should, be there, and she'd help, again, Naruto, though this time, get undressed. From there, Naruto, once somewhat undressed, would go into the bathroom to, go toilet. Literally, go toilet, as well as, push the gum and that out that they, and kind of, dumped in. And he would simply push out, the gum and that. He'd see or at least they'd fill it and kind of see it in the toilet. And after somewhat flashing it, it proceeded to try and release, or at least to, shape-shift back, but it wouldn't work. The reason why is because it cleared the somewhat room out, and not the, somewhat, what's it called? He hadn't quite, once he cleared out the uterus, he didn't clear the fallopian tubes where the eggs, somewhat, traveled down. He hadn't somewhat cleared those out. Thus, some sperm was going up there. Thus, kind of preventing him from being able to revert, back. And, he'd end up coming out and kind of saying, he just kind of stuck like this and, kind of a bit panicking. And, after only somewhat a bit, about, 5 days later, he would manage to revert back, similarly, been trying, every day. And every time he'd go to the toilet, he'd be, trying to revert back as he was just doing the transformation. Though he didn't exactly know why. And, or at least, so, even though he still trying to thinking as he, knew about, the female reproductive system, he wasn't exactly sure why he couldn't, release. Well, about after a week or, after, about another week or two, he would kind of have a theory, which just sort of meant that he, or at least they kind of realised that he probably, that maybe the sperm went actually, up into fallopian tubes that he didn't think was potentially possible, but if it was, then it would explain why he couldn't revert back, and if so, then realised that, Anyway, though, from, the time of, the bridge being safe for that, killing Gato and that, 3 weeks would pass, and the month, would go by and the bridge would be complete. They, they would leave and the bridge would be called the Great Naruto Bridge due to the one who killed Gato and brought, brought Hope back, to Rave. And with that, I'm going to end this part here, guys. So if you have enjoyed this part, do tell me in the comments down below. And guys, hope you guys have a good day or night, depending on wherever you are and whenever you watch this. And goodbye.